It works. Hello, hello. How are you guys today?
Hello.
Hi.
Becca's coming to visit me next month. I'm so
Yay!
excited.
Going to
Now we need to get,
California.
I know, we need to get Britt out here now. Come on,
I
Britt.
know. I'm working
Yes.
on it.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. We are trying to get through but this is going to be part three of the series that we're talking about for bike park basics. And today, what we're going to do is talk about getting comfortable on the trail, getting comfortable at the bike park. You know, you've got your gear, you've got your bike, you know how to read the maps, you know all the things. So some of the things that I wanted to discuss with y'all today was like the downhill lingo, you know, types of features you come across at the bike park if you want to do some sessioning. Clipless or flats, that's a whole debate we could go on for like days.
Yeah.
But you know, little things like that. So I know like one of the things I've learned from Becca recently, the coolest like little lingo that I found is the trailside Chad. So for y'all who don't know, Becca is half of the Girls Pull Up Not Out Instagram page. And
Hey,
her,
Carly. Carly's part two.
yeah,
I want to say, hey, Carly.
Carly and Becca are freaking hilarious. And one of the things I love that you guys did is the trailside chat. To me, that's like downhill lingo now. I think we should
Yeah.
make that like an actual thing.
It has
So,
kind of turned into that. Yeah, it kind of has. And it's funny, like it started with just kind of like, in Brit, I know you as a woman writer, I feel like everyone can attest to this. It's kind of like that random guy that nobody asked is going to just give you that feedback that you didn't ask for. And
Mhm.
yeah.
it might, I have nothing but respect for everyone that I've encountered in the mountain bike scene at parks. I have had a great experience. So while I think everyone has the best intentions, it comes
Yeah.
across as very
Mansplaining.
mansplaining. And that's the new name for them is the trailside Chad. So
I
you
like
might be
it.
in the middle of something we're going to discuss in a little bit. You might be in the middle of sessioning something that you've hit 100 times. Some random guy's going to roll up and be like, "Oh, what you want to do is actually," and it's like, I didn't ask, but thank you.
You're like,
Mhm.
shut up, Chad.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah.
on that note, what are some other downhill lingos that you guys could tell us about?
One that I see all the time on social media because I follow a lot of pro riders, and a lot of them are European or British, especially, or like Welsh.
Yeah.
And they always say like gutted. And I always thought that was like a bad thing. Turns out I'm pretty sure that it's not a bad thing. I think it's like a good
Gutted. We should Google that. What does gutted mean in like British European slang, I guess?
Yeah, because
On
they would like
that,
use it in reference to like, a downhill race or something, like, oh, I was so gutted. And I'm like, oh man, they must have done terribly. But I think that means they did great.
on that same note, I've connected with a lot of like epic women writers in Australia and New Zealand, and a big thing it seems there is frothing. So when you say you're like, oh, Mia, you're Australian, is this accurate?
That's
I'm not sure.
not a
Maybe
thing.
is this like a Kiwi thing? I'm not sure. But like I'm frothing. It's like kind of I'm ready to go. Like I'm chomping at the bit. I don't know. It's like
That's weird.
to me, yeah, I was like, what is frothing? Can someone explain? And they're like, it's like you're excited, you can't wait, you're ready to go. So I've seen that a little bit more now in some of the pro riders, but I think I'm more like just keen to looking at it. Might maybe not as common. So
Yeah.
maybe there are two things not as common, but everyone knows the big ones, right?
Mhm.
Send it. You gotta send
Send
it. And I feel like
it.
that's the
Yeah.
the most universal horrible advice is send it. Like there
Mhm.
Yeah.
is nothing more universally probably inappropriate for someone that is truly trying to learn how to ride a feature
Yes.
or a trail or hone in on a skill, and you're asking for feedback or you're practicing things that you know how to do better, whatever, and someone just gives you the insight of just send it. And
Or
it's
the other one is just lean back. And that's
yes.
like, I know we're kind of deviating from slang right now, but we're talking about like that. We'll talk about bad habits, I guess. But that's another one. Have you guys heard or watch any of Sam Pilgrim's stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
So
he's got
I
like three
love
teeth.
that dude.
I love it.
I love him so much because he's hilarious. And
Hmm.
one of the things I started using, I don't know if this is necessarily like downhill slang, but I use doomage, like everything for him that's super steep or on
Oh, I
some
don't know
stairs. He's
that
like,
one.
this is some doomage. And I'm just like,
I like
yes,
that.
doomage. We
I
should
like
take that
it.
one.
Yeah.
I
Let's get
like
in some
it.
doomage. Oh, that's hilarious.
That's good.
Um,
Nice.
That's good.
all right, so that's some funny kind of lingo, I guess you guys can think about. If someone says send
Mhm.
it, that means just go for it. But we're
Another
just
one
saying
you're
like
going to
be
hear a
careful.
lot. Another, I feel like the big thing now, this is like, you don't know what to say. Someone's flying by you. They're looking epic. It's just
Uh
YEEW. That's just the noise. That's the
Mhm.
universal noise of like, you're killing it. You're doing awesome. And I support you. You.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
when you're like at a park and you hear that off in the distance and you're like, wow,
Hmm.
somebody's doing really good over there.
Exactly. That's like the universal like trail call of like, wow, someone's
Uh-huh.
going big over there. Someone is
But
sending it over there.
you know what? I think that's awesome because my wife makes fun of me when I do that. And I'm glad she thinks it's like cringeworthy, but I just do it because it makes me happy. I'm just like,
Oh,
oh
I
my
love it.
God, yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love the stoke. I love when I see people. Oh, stoke. I guess maybe that's another. I don't know. Here I am
Yeah.
sounding like I'm just this like
Mhm.
surfer bro dude or whatever. But like
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
stoked, whatever. It's like you wanna support that vibe. You see someone killing it. You don't want to just be like you're doing a good job. I feel like
Mhm.
Yeah.
you just sums it up.
That's
Yeah.
true. It really does. It really does.
Yeah. One
Um,
that I
or
really want to know the origin of is dead sailor.
I
Like,
didn't
why?
even know
That
that
is
was
a
a
good
thing.
one. That is a
Yeah,
good
like
one.
where did that originate? Because
That
What
is
does
I,
a
it
good
mean?
one.
I'll admit, I've been guilty of dead sailoring on many
Yes.
occasions.
Okay.
It's like when you're
Maybe
in the air and you're just like so stiff, and it's like you're not really controlling the bike. You're just kind of there.
Maybe we can add a video to this if we get to that point, we can kind of add a little clip. Like Britt and I can find a good clip. Dead
Yeah.
Sailor it's usually something of when you're going off a big jump, a table where you're in passenger mode, and either you just send it a
Uh,
little bit too deep or heavy or hard, but you're kind of just you're not in control of the bike. You're
Mhm.
just doing this arch of like, woo, and you just land not in control of any of it. It has a very
Mhm.
distinct look to it. And you kind of know
okay.
when you get like launched into a dead sailor, it's like, oh, here we go. I'm just gonna
Mhm.
try to recoup this. But I would love to know the origin of that too, Britt. That's a great
Yeah.
one. I feel like
All right. We'll
we need
we'll have
to
to do
well, we
some
need to
Googling.
investigate that. Yeah, that's a good
We'll
one.
go in the Google machine. Um, okay, so we're getting comfortable at the park, right? We're getting ready to go down. What are some common features, say, on a subjective green trail? And we all know it's very subjective, but what are some features you guys would see on like a green trail?
I think for a green trail, it's very common. You might not see drops, but you're going to see at least like pretty big rock rolls at times, and also
Okay.
small rock rolls. Usually, there might be some small tables, small jumps, stuff that you do not have to actually get your wheels off the ground unless you really want to, stuff that you can absolutely roll with no problem, and maybe like some smaller berms. I would say those are pretty common beginner kind of green level features.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
What
I
do you see
agree
out
for
there, Becca?
sure. No, I agree for sure. And I think, again, it's important to reiterate that a green at one park is not comparable to a green at any other park, whether that's, your local trails. Like a green is relative to just
Right.
that place. But relatively speaking, I think exactly what Britt said is perfect. It's everything should be rollable, meaning that you don't have to, your tires don't have to leave the ground in order for you to be successful on it or to safely ride through it. Anything that is rollable means you can ride with two tires on the ground through it.
Cool.
So I
That's
think
pretty cool.
everything should fall in line with that. Everything else is kind of a little just depending on where you are. The terrain might get a little bumpy, a little rocky. There might be some corners or some berms. I know that at Mountain Creek, some of their green trails at the top, their jump lines are some of the most fun that I have. I could ride there all day. And you
Hmm.
can case them all day and still have fun, and you can clear them and have just a great time too. So you might encounter some maybe tables or things that might look big. But what I've found is that there's usually like a roll around or like a beeline, so to say, which is
Yeah,
you don't
that's
have to just go that way. There are safe ways down.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like the beeline that people, so for people to know that beeline would be your way around or a
Mm-hmm.
different way for you to go down it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sorry, Becca. I don't you're freezing a little bit, but it's okay. I am very hopeful that when we finish doing this, it's gonna look fine.
Better.
But everything's looking great though. Everything, the sound is great. Um and so and again, thank you for pointing that out in regards to it is subjective, like we said in our last series of this part two, that every park is completely different. And even though you're comfortable with a blue in one, it's like a black for someone else.
And I have been
So
victim to that.
with
I
that,
have fallen victim to that. So yes.
yeah. So with that said, um, what would be some features we could find in more of like the higher blues, blacks areas that you guys have seen like at your parks?
In my experience, blue trails are usually they're all going to have some kind of jump element usually, but they're going to get bigger. So a blue trail, the tables might be longer, the lips might be more kicky or more poppy. Um, Sometimes wooden features, depending on where you are in the country. We have a pretty good bit of wooden features, like as far as drops and stuff. You might see rock drops.
Yeah.
Berms might be bigger. There might be more of them. They might be tighter. The trails in general might be steeper. So it's like
Mm,
taking everything a green trail offers and just kind of kicking it up a little.
okay.
But at the parks I ride at, I mostly like I love blue trails. That's like where I just have the most fun. I
Mm-hmm.
can do black trails at most parks, but like I don't have as much fun. But in
Okay.
my experience, the blue trails usually will all have a ride around. So if there's a feature that you're not comfortable with, you can still go do that trail at a lot of places and just do all the ride arounds or the beelines. So yeah, that's just kind of what I've seen as far as blues.
Yeah, it's all about having fun, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's exactly spot on. I think it's all relative again to that park specifically. So it's kind of like, what did that green feel like at that park? So how did you feel on that green? Did it feel really, really fast and loose and kind of which way or the other? Expect whatever you encounter there to just be escalated, right?
Right.
So I would say definitely looking back at that trail matrix, is it marked as a flow trail or is it marked as a tech trail? If they do have the different kind of symbols for that, not every park has a difference of symbols between flow and tech, but if they do, have an idea, okay, this one I'm going to encounter more man-made features, maybe bigger jumps, bigger berms,
Right.
steeper
Right.
terrain versus tech, more natural rock rolls, rocky kind of natural descents. But yeah, I mean, definitely expect it to bump up a level. And I think it's also important to say that when you're graduating between a blue or a green to a blue to a black, there's kind of the like, is this like a light teal blue green or is this more
Hmm.
of like a blue black? Like, where does
The
this
shades.
fall in the shade of it?
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
that at Mountain Creek they have a great list of like where to progress. Okay, this is our suggestion of trail progression. Ask someone at the park. Sometimes they do have trail crew people on the trails at Blue Mountain. Now by me, they have people that are kind of always manning the trails that are there to help direct you, like, oh, I've ridden this, what should I try next? So don't
Yeah.
hesitate to
Yeah.
ask if you're not sure, like, okay, there's like 10 blue trails, what should I hit first? Because which one is more
The
baby blue versus
easiest.
blue
Hmm.
black? Something to
Yeah.
You hit
And
all of them. You hit
yeah.
all of them, and then you find the one you have the most fun on.
Yeah, and
exactly,
another thing
exactly.
with like blue trails especially, I said a lot of times there's going to be a ride around. Once you start getting to black trails, you might not have ride arounds anymore. You might have mandatory
Hmm.
features. Um, I mean, even on some blue trails, you might have some doubles and stuff where you need to
And
be
what?
comfortable.
Okay, so break that down. What is a double for people who don't know, like me?
Yep.
Ugh.
So instead of just doing one jump, let's say there's a jump on a green trail and you can just roll it or you can jump it, clear it, get some air. Once you start getting into double territory, that's where you're going to have two back to back. And so in between them, the trail is going to dip down. So you can roll them. But if you are trying to get air and you're not aware a double is coming, you have to be able to clear the second one or you're probably going to crash somehow in between the two because you're not going
Got
to
it.
get to the landing.
or you're going
Got
to have a
it.
really
So,
nasty case. And casing a
Yes.
feature is when your rear tire kind of slams into whatever you're trying to make it over. So casing it is like, and that may lead to a crash. Doubles kind of have this visual intimidation aspect to it for me anyway. And there's kind of like a running, I don't know, joke among some mountain bikers of like they can hit all the biggest tables in the world, but the second you approach a double, it just is visually kind of
Mm-hmm.
scarier. So take that in consideration. That's why it's always so important to do that pre-ride, re-ride, free ride. If it's a new trail, it
yes.
might be marked as a blue. Are they all doubles? Are
Yeah,
they all
yeah.
big gap
Yeah.
jumps? What are you going to expect? Just
Yeah.
pull it. If there's a big scary
I
berm,
mean,
do you have to hit it or can you just ride kind of through it? So
right
something to
through
think
it.
about.
Right through it. I don't know. The
Yeah.
first time I did this little line at the baby bike park in Sedona, there is a section where it kind of goes down into a table. And the first time I did it, I was like pissing my pants. I'm gonna mute this out, like because the lip is kind of there's like a little bit of a lip to it, but I'm so scared of falling when I jump. It's something I'm working on that I went and I just got a little air, but I landed on the table and I was like, oh my God, I did that. So I just kept practicing that over and over to get more comfortable with it. I mean, that's what it's about, right? Like
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to your
absolutely.
comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, well, talking about that then, so how would you recommend someone who wants to just do sessioning, right? Like sessioning is basically when you want to do the same feature over and over again to get better at it, to either to do different lines, see how your braking is doing, etc. At least that's what I do when I do sessioning.
Mhm.
But and we did talk about trail etiquette in the past episode for part two. So go back and listen to that. I'm going to have the thing up here. But in terms of trail etiquette for sessioning, like what do you guys recommend for that? Because like for me as a newbie, I want to go and session things, right? But I also don't want to like get run over or have someone crash on me or into me or whatever as they're coming down. So what do you guys recommend with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the last thing you want is to end up being in somebody's way on a one directional downhill trail.
Yeah.
Especially when, because you have to think about if there's jumps, especially if you choose to go back up the trail, you could be on the backside of a jump and someone has no way to see that you were there. They can't hear you, they can't see you, they're going so fast. And then that's a really bad scenario. I
Mhm.
usually don't session things. And if I do, it's at parks where there's like an intersection or there's like a fire road or some kind of a road that I can kind of take from one trail intersection, maybe back up a little ways to get to a
Mm-hmm.
higher up intersection. So I
Yeah.
can just do little loops, in one particular part of the park. When I prepare for races, I go out with big groups of women and we do session stuff, but we are very, very conscious. Like we have somebody standing up higher on the trail, somebody standing down lower on the trail. We are yelling, communicating, like
Yeah.
I'm dropping in, like riders back, like if we can see people up the mountain.
Yeah.
The big thing is if you do choose to do that, don't ever ride your bike up. I mean, it's a downhill park, so you obviously won't want to do that anyway. But just be very aware of your surroundings. And if you
Yeah.
hear anything at all, just get out of the way as fast as you can because they come down fast.
Mhm.
That's pretty messed up.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. And I think it's kind of think about the area of what you're choosing to session. Like Britt was saying, there might be the most fun feature that you want to ride over and over and over again. But if it's really difficult to access, you're not only putting yourself at danger and risk, you're putting other riders at risk. So usually for very sessionable, is that a word? Well, it is today. Sections of the trail that you want to session over and over. There's usually a pretty worn area on the sides where there's like a push back up. And you're going to find that it's in an area that's not super, super, super steep where like gravity is just truly taking you all the way down. But
Yeah.
regardless of that, you still need to be very aware of when you're dropping in. Is there someone coming full send, full go behind you because you're now starting from a stopped pace? Is someone coming
Yeah.
behind you? So
Yeah.
situational awareness is always the most important aspect. If you're wanting to session something, find a way to do it safely. pull off to the side to kind of scope it out or scout it out. Don't just stop in the middle of a trail if there's people behind you, because that could just create a horrible traffic jam. And again, push
Yeah,
it back
that's
up.
true.
You might not see anyone coming and be pushing back up the middle of a jump or a trail or whatever. They come
Yeah.
fast. So stay off the middle of the trail. Absolutely. But sessioning is a great
And
way. Sessioning is a great way to learn, a great way to practice.
and don't do it by yourself, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
learning too, right? Like don't
Yep.
like Britt was saying, like if you're practicing for a race and there's a few of you, awesome, because you can communicate. One can be up top, at the bottom, whatever. But
Mhm.
yeah, do not do that by yourself, kids, unless you're at like a bike park that no one goes to, I would say. And
Or
again,
something that you're just, you've hit so many times, you're familiar with it, you've reached that point. But
yeah.
when it comes down to, oh, that was really cool, I think I really want to ride that again. What's the safest way to approach that feature when you're off your bike? Think about it
Nope.
like that.
And so let's go back real quick, because we've been talking about feature names or, sections. And I don't know if a lot of people know what they are. You did talk about doubles a second ago. You guys explained what that is. But for tables, it's really literally like a lip jump. There's a table and then it goes back on the other side, right? Like that's the best way to explain it. And how would you explain like a gap jump? I mean, literally it's in the name, right? But the lips aren't as big. Is that right? Like the little...
I mean, it can kind of depend. Like I rode at Rock Creek recently and did a race, and they had a gap. And I did not hit it because I was not comfortable. Sometimes it can have like a bigger lip, so you can feel more confident that you're going to get enough air to clear it. This one was more like a drop gap. So there wasn't really a lip. You had to really carry a ton of speed in order to clear it. So it just kind of depends on how, that particular feature is set up. But a gap is kind of, as it implies, there is a gap between point A and your point B landing.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest difference between a gap and, say, like a double is that a double is still rollable, whereas a gap, I don't want to assume is necessarily rollable.
Right.
Even if you're approaching it at a very chill speed, I would not approach a gap feature, no matter how, even if it were on a green trail. I know that Mountain Creek has kind of something like a gap jump that's on a green trail. You don't want to approach that like you're trying to roll it. It's still
Right.
Because another, Britt, I think you'll know which one I'm talking about at Rock Creek. They still have, whether they call it a gap or a cannonball, the other term that sometimes they call these big wooden features that launch you is a boner log. And that is, and you know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, you know which one I'm talking about at Rock Creek. Like it is basically like a ramp, but sometimes that can be like, oh yeah, you just gap it. So some of these things can be interchangeable. So if you hear things kind of in that variable, it doesn't mean that you can roll it.
Right.
So approach those with a bit of caution if you're not certain about what's coming up, because you don't know where the landing is. How far is it? What are you landing into?
Yeah.
Is there an immediate turn right after that? Does it go into a berm? Whatever. So gaps, cannonballs, boner logs, they're all typically not rollable. But I hate to say it, it really is a very common term for features out on the East Coast. It really is.
I mean, fair, whatever. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Okay, so I wanted to cover just a couple other things with this part of it. And this next question for y'all is probably going to entice a lot of feelings in a lot of people. And it's probably something that, like I said earlier, we could do an entire like hour-long podcast on.
Focus.
And I'm talking about clipless or flats. Now, I ride flats now. I used to ride clipless, but I was never super comfortable in tech riding clipless. So I switched to flats. So now I just ride flats. But I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she dead in the face looked at me and she's like, how do you not have a complete fear of losing control of your bike on flats? And I'm like, I don't. That's just how I am. And she's like, I would die if I was on flats at a bike park. I could not securely jump if I was on flats. And I found that really interesting.
I got thoughts there, but okay, I'm going to keep my mouth.
So, when it comes to a bike park setting, Britt, what do you use?
I'm going to throw a wrench into this question.
Oh, I know this.
Oh,
Actually, I know this.
Yeah, I use MagPeds. I love
That's
them. Like,
right.
shout out forever. Cannot live without them. I've been riding for like 10 years. I did like 7 years clipped in.
Okay.
I mostly did SPDs or Crank Brothers. I
Okay.
thought I loved it. Once I started doing more downhill, then I actually just completely switched to flats because I
Mm,
was like, I want to be able to put a foot down more comfortably, more easily.
yes.
I don't want to think about what happens when I crash. But I don't like feeling not attached to my bike while I jump. I slipped pedals a lot in the
Mm.
air, and that gave
Mhm.
me a giant fear of jumping for a minute. And jumping's like my favorite thing in the world. So I found magnetic pedals, which are the best of both worlds for me, at least. It keeps me attached through chatter, through chunk, through jumps. And if I do crash or need to put a foot down, it's a lot easier than clipless.
I'm
See,
gonna
I need to
say
try those.
I'm gonna say
I
that
need to
Britt,
try those.
we're gonna need a review of this,
She
like
did
very
one.
good. Okay, good, good. So
So,
then let's go back and review this because this is a perfect
yes.
like conversation back in there because I know that I've done my review of pedals too. So this is a perfect talking point to like investigate this further because that is very valuable insight, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still pretty new. A
Yeah.
lot of people see them and they're like, "What are those?" Like,
Yeah.
how do you attach? There's a magnet on the bottom of your shoe that it just attaches to the pedal. So it's
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
similar mechanism as clipless.
I'm gonna add the link here for y'all to go and see the review that Britt did. She did like both a video review for us and a written review that's on the site, so we can add that to this as well. Becca, I know you ride flats. Would you go clipless?
I would go. So for my situation, I have ridden clipless, which I hate the name of it. Clipped in is whatever,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
whatever.
you're
Where your
right.
feet are
Clipped in.
attached to the pedal, whatever.
There you
I
go.
have ridden those for a very long time at my local trails. Once I started to ride downhill, I've been riding flats, platform, whichever you want to say, and I've had a very positive experience on that. I find that there is a lot of benefit to being clipped in. It enhanced my riding a ton in my local trails. I think it would enhance my riding a ton at downhill. However, there is kind of like it's a big jump if we're just going from flats to clipless, clipped in, foot attached to the pedal. You don't have
Yeah.
that quick, easy put your foot down. So for me, since I'm still in this ACL recovery, there's some information out there that full clipless, clipped in can kind of add a little bit of trauma, not trauma, but whatever, tension to the
Like
knee.
strain.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're unclipping. So I probably will not ever go fully clipped in. I have found that a lot of people that I know personally that are in the racing scene, it has changed the game for them once they started to ride clipped in. So I think it just kind of depends on your comfort level. Like, what are you
Yeah.
comfortable with out there? I don't think I would be comfortable being clipped in myself, but it that also being said, jumping, you should know how to jump on platforms. You will learn the best principles of how to jump if you learn how to jump in platforms. Because the
See,
inadvertent thing is that clipless, whatever, can help you jump. And that's great. Like
Hmm.
I'm all for extra resources, but you should still know the principles of how to jump in flats before you just go to clipless.
yeah,
That's my
perhaps
thoughts.
we need to have someone like Emma or like a coach come talk to us
Mhm.
about it
Yes,
because
defer
that,
to a
like Britt was
pro.
saying,
Yep.
I think for me, I really want to start to get more comfortable doing jumps. But like you, I also had slips on the pedals and it just lowers your confidence like
Hmm.
all the way
Hmm.
down. But, and
Yeah.
Becca, you're right, where, I always have Jess Hanna in the back of my head when she told us how to, the science and the gravity of putting your foot down on the pedals. And so I've been
Hmm.
practicing that as well. But, I don't know, dude. Maybe next year I'll do the mag pads. I'm not sure. They're a little pricey.
I'm very interested to
Hey,
try them
I
though
got a
because
discount code y'all can use.
all right, yes, because I actually really would love to try those because I think I would be right in line with benefiting from
Yeah.
that because like foot slips do happen even when you do
Oh
learn how
yeah.
to jump successfully,
Hmm.
even when you
100%.
do learn like it's not uncommon to get kind of bumbled around and then you realize your feet are not like this, one's like this. And so you're like, well,
Yep.
this is how I'm riding on the
Yep.
platform the rest of the time because I can't reposition. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a new aspect. That's a new, something to think about.
Well, my discount code is in that article and video that
That's
we
right.
will be
That's
linking
awesome.
back to this.
That's awesome.
Real linking. Look up on the corner or in the description. We're going to put that on there for you guys. All right. So I think we could kind of let it go for here tonight in terms of getting comfortable at the park, talking about features and some of the basic terminology. One thing I will say, and you guys can attest to this more than me for now, is that your body will be very tired and sore after your first session at the bike park. Right? Like you guys get that too, right?
Yep.
The forearm pump is real.
Forearm pump.
Yeah, that's when I know I'm getting tired from a big day at a park, just from the steep position you're in, your forearms, all that weight and braking. Oh, it hurts.
Yeah.
No, I
agree.
I agree completely with that. Like, just be ready. Like, it's gravity assisted. Yes, gravity is getting you there, and you might not be pedaling. You're still going to be short of breath. You're still going to be winded. You're going to be like cruising down there and be like, "What did I just do?" And that still happens to me. That still happens to me. And the next day, you're going to wake up and be like, "I'm sore. Like, what did I do? I didn't pedal. I didn't lift. I didn't do whatever." You're going to be sore. It takes a lot of work to keep your bike engaged safely and effectively on the mountain. So you will be surprised. True. Definitely.
That's a good point. All right, ladies. Well, thank you again for joining tonight and talking to us about part 3 here of Bike Park Basics. The next time we're gonna get into a little bit more advanced topics. So stick around and we'll have that out in the next couple of weeks. But for now, thank you both. Have an amazing night. And we'll talk soon. Go ride your bike.
Soon. Yeah, go ride your bike.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Send
Bye.
it.